Further acknowledge in his absence the chairman of the Barbuda Youth Council, Mr. Ezekiel Francois, whose leadership continues to be an inspiration to our movement. Additionally, sincere appreciation is extended to our advisor, Mrs. Ramona Hughes Small, whose steadfast guidance has been pivotal in ensuring our success. Honorable members, as you engage in debate on this important resolution, I extend best wishes for a productive and transformative sitting. May your deliberations continue to strengthen the foundation of youth governance in the Eastern Caribbean. Celine Edwards, Chairwoman. We thank the External Affairs Officer for her remarks. And I also wish to place on record that yesterday morning, members of both associations paid a courtesy call on Her Excellency Dame Marcella Liebert, GCMG JP, Governor General of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, who also extended best wishes for today's sitting. Thank you.
Announcements by the Speaker.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning. We stand here and sit here today on a very historic occasion as we commence the Eastern Caribbean Youth Assembly, which is a key tenet of the Eastern Caribbean Youth Parliamentary Network Agreement. This network, for those who may not be aware, comes out of the joint relationship between the St. Kitts National Youth Parliament Association, based here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and the National Youth Parliament Association of Antigua and Barbuda, based in St. John's, Antigua. And we are truly proud to welcome our counterparts from Antigua and Barbuda for this historic working visit, which culminates today in this Youth Assembly. Today we discuss a critical topic facing our region and our world, and I wish all our leaders, whether they are here present in the chamber or listening, to take heed to the warnings and the suggestions of our members so that we can continue to create a sustainable world and one that we are pleased to live in. I urge the members, both government and opposition, to remember my plea from our dry run last evening, and I wish today's sitting every success. And before I continue, I just want to recognize in the gallery Senator the Honorable Dr. Joel Clark, the Minister of Sustainable Development, Environment, Climate Action, Constituency Empowerment in the Federal National Assembly. I also recognize Mrs. Ramona Small, the former clerk of the Parliament of Antigua and Barbuda, Mr. Kamali Mannix, immediate past president of the NYPA, as well as the Director of Public Prosecutions here in St. Kitts and Nevis, who, by the way, is an Antiguan. So we are proud to welcome them all, and we encourage them to enjoy today's sitting. And as we go through the day, I anticipate that more persons will continue to come in, and so we will recognize them as they attend. We also recognize the members of the St. Kitts National Youth Parliament who are with us, as well as the remaining cohort of the visiting delegation from Antigua and Barbuda. And so with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this show on the road.
Presentation of papers and reports from committees.
I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Trade and Investment.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to lay before this House the communique from the inaugural sitting of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. It was a sitting where we would have discussed the root cause of crime and violence within our region, and we would have collated some long-term solutions and short-term solutions as it relates to government and their fight against crime and violence. And I lay this paper. May it please you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister. There being no further presentation of papers, we can move to the next agenda item.
Petitions, government notices, unofficial notices, questions.
I recognize the Honorable Member for St. Christopher 8.
Mr. Speaker, with your leave, of course, I pose question 1 to the Minister of Infrastructure, Energy, Information, Communication and Technology. Given our commitments to sustainable development and reducing our dependency on fossil fuels, could the Honourable Member clarify whether our current investments and adoption rates in renewable energy are on track to meet our 2030 clean energy targets? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I recognize the Minister of Infrastructure, Energy and Information Communication Technology.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to say good morning to the listening and viewing audience and the honourable members. Especially good morning to the persons in the gallery. I want to thank the members as well for the timely and important question put forward. Just trusting the question was mischievous. But I want to let the member know that our government remains firmly committed to the 2030 clean energy target to reduce our dependence on fossil fuel, both for environmental sustainability and economic resilience. In St. Kitts, we have advanced significantly through the construction of the ECCB solar farm, which its intent is to provide clean electricity. Alongside this, the geothermal energy exploration in Nevis continues with its potential to supply not only our federation, but also export clean energy to neighboring islands. In Antigua, major strides are being made. The Green Barbuda project is one that brings together solar power, batteries, backup diesel in one system. It provides energy to cover Barbuda's daytime needs and support Antigua and Barbuda's goal of reaching most of its electricity renewable sources by 2030. This initiative places on a credible path towards our 2030 goals. Mr. Speaker, this is a government of action. And I want to emphasize action because it is said that the opposition don't know such. But just to make rest assured to the government, to the opposition, that we remain steadfast in its commitment delivering sustainable energy for our people and meeting the 2030 goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I recognize the Honourable Senator opposite.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for acknowledging me. Mr. Speaker, this morning I propose this question to the Minister of Youth and Education. Identifying the urgency of building a climate-resilient nation, can you confirm whether our school curriculum has been deliberately restructured to integrate comprehensive climate science, disaster preparedness, and sustainable practices across all grade levels? And if so, are our educational facilities, particularly in the vulnerable and coastal and rural areas, already equipped and retrofitted to withstand climate-related impacts, or are we still preparing our students for a building that they may not survive in?
Thank you, Senator. I recognize the Honourable Minister of Youth and Education to provide a response.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Honourable Member for that interesting question. Our government is fully committed to strengthening our education system in response to the realities of climate change. The school curriculum has been restructured to include comprehensive climate science, disaster preparedness, and sustainable practices across all grade levels. This has been reinforced through seminars, forums, and mandatory projects, ensuring that students are not only aware of the challenges posed by climate change, but are also equipped with the knowledge and practical skills to address them. Furthermore, recognizing the vulnerability of our educational facilities, particularly in coastal and rural areas, we have undertaken significant infrastructure enhancements. 17 educational facilities across St. Kitts and Nevis have benefited from a US $205,000 climate change adaptation project. This initiative, founded by USAID in collaboration with the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, focuses on ensuring a reliable water supply by retrofitting existing cisterns and installing new water storage tanks. These upgrades are crucial in enhancing the resilience of our schools to climate-related impacts. Additionally, our commitment to climate resilience is reflected in the development of a national climate change adaptation strategy. This strategy, formulated through stakeholder consultations facilitated by the Caribbean Natural Resources Institute, CANARI, outlines specific adaptation measures to address the impacts of climate change and build resilience across sectors, including education. Our government is proactively integrating climate resilience into both our educational curriculum and infrastructure. These efforts aim to prepare our students for the challenges of the future, while ensuring that our educational facilities are safe, sustainable, and capable of withstanding the climate-related impacts that are sure to come.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I recognize the Honourable Member for St. Philip's North to pose a question.
Thank you for acknowledging me, Mr. Speaker. I would like to say good morning once more to the beautiful people in the balcony, here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and in Antigua and Barbuda. Mr. Speaker, my question goes to the Minister with responsibility for foreign affairs. Can you kindly indicate to this Honourable House how many countries within our region have expressed their support for the adoption of the Multidimensional Vulnerability Index?
Thank you, Honourable Member. I recognize the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member opposite for the question. Nothing that a quick Google search would not have solved, but nonetheless, Mr. Speaker, the member opposite would know, as in his preparation for today's debate, that there is not a definitive number that is available to answer the question. But I can confidently report to this Honourable House, Mr. Speaker, that a significant number of Caribbean countries have expressed their support for the Multidimensional Vulnerability Index, especially through their engagement with the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States, a major advocate for the MVI at the international level. Countries such as Antigua and Barbuda, where he came from, Barbados, Jamaica, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, Dominica, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Speaker. All other SIDS, which are the small island developing states, have either formally endorsed or actively supported the MVI in our global discussions. Their shared vulnerability to climate change, external economic shocks and disasters make this tool not just relevant, but urgently necessary. And Mr. Speaker, without divulging too much into what the Minister of Finance will mention, I want to say that it is clear, Mr. Speaker, that Caribbean solidarity on the MVI is growing because we know that GDP alone cannot measure the reality of our vulnerabilities. The region understands this truth, and increasingly, the world is understanding it too. And so, yes, Honourable Member opposite, our sisters are standing with us, our brothers as well. And together, we are pushing to make the MVI an internationally accepted standard. May it please you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. There being no further questions, I think we can proceed along the order paper.
Requests for leave to move the adjournment of the National Assembly on matters of urgent public notice. Statements by ministers. Personal explanations.
I think we may have a statement. I recognize the Honourable Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for recognizing me. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning to everyone in the gallery. I rise to give a brief statement in my capacity as the Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, as we come to the end of the year, we just want to look back on the prioritization of youth initiatives by the ministry, the government over the last financial year. And as we proceed, we are focusing on initiatives with youth unemployment, looking at promoting youth innovation and youth development. So we are looking at promoting the orange economy, the blue economy, fostering innovation and entrepreneurship, and we just want to remind the young people that as we have been supporting, we are planning and we have plans for the new fiscal year to continue to promote and encourage our young people. As the saying always goes, Mr. Speaker, teach a man to fish and he will not die. Right. But Mr. Speaker, that we will continue to do as we as a government are interested and committed to developing our youth of the future, and not just of the future, but our youth of today, and ensuring that our citizens and residents are able to live a comfortable and high quality life. May it please you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister of Finance. I recognize the Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Marine Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A pleasant good morning to the listening and viewing audience and those in the gallery today. I rise to say that our progress depends on unity and a collective effort. The reality is that now in St. Kitts and Nevis, our agricultural sector isn't at the development that we need it to be, and we shall improve it. I want us to take a look across the waters to our neighboring island of Antigua and Barbuda and just adopt some of the same principles that are deeply rooted in the ABBAS framework. With such, we saw that farmers are being trained, machinery is being purchased, as well as our culture is being revitalized through the Antiguan Black Pineapple Initiative. And I want to take this time to give great commendation to the Minister of Agriculture in Antigua and Barbuda, the Honorable Anthony Smith, and as well in St. Kitts and Nevis, Mr. Samuel Douglas. I want us to also implement a similar model, such as the CMC, the Central Marketing Corporation. With such model, we will see the solution to a farmer registration, a proper crop rotation schedule in place, as well as food security strengthened within the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And as the Antiguans say, each endeavoring, all achieving. May it please you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Deputy Clerk.
Personal explanations. Motions relating to business of the National Assembly and moved by a minister. Introduction of bills and first reading. Public business and second reading. Motions. Resolutions.
I recognize the Honorable Minister of Sustainable Development, Environment and Climate Action.
Mr. Speaker, am I audible?
Yes.
Good morning, all. Honorable colleagues, listening and viewing audience, members of the gallery. Mr. Speaker, I seek your leave to have adopted in the sitting of the Eastern Caribbean Youth Assembly a resolution of the Eastern Caribbean Youth Assembly calling for stronger regional action towards environmental resilience and sustainable development. Permit me now to read the resolution into the records of this august assembly. A resolution of the Eastern Caribbean Youth Assembly calling for stronger regional action towards environmental resilience and sustainable development. Whereas small island developing states, SIDS, in the Eastern Caribbean remain uniquely vulnerable to the adverse effects of climate change, environmental degradation, and economic shocks. Whereas the recently held 4th International Conference on Small Island Developing States, SIDS-4, in Antigua and Barbuda, has renewed global focus on the sustainable development needs of island nations, praising the government and people of Antigua and Barbuda for leading the adoption of the Antigua and Barbuda Agenda for SIDS ABAS, a progressive framework aimed at advancing sustainability, resilience, and prosperity in island states. Applauding the efforts of the government of St. Kitts and Nevis in adopting the Sustainable Island State Agenda CISA, a visionary strategy to transform the nation into a model for sustainable development, clean energy transition, and climate action. Commending the government of St. Kitts and Nevis for the recent passage of the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center Agreement Bill 2024, signaling its strong legislative commitment to advancing regional coordination and action on climate change. recognizing the essential role of sustainable tourism and infrastructure development in strengthening the economic resilience and environmental sustainability of Eastern Caribbean states. Concerned that international financing agencies continue to use GDP per capita as the primary mechanism for determining eligibility for concessional financing, thereby unfairly excluding vulnerable island states from much-needed development aid. Supporting the advocacy of Antigua and Barbuda and other members of the Alliance of Small Island States, AOSIS, for the adoption of the Multidimensional Vulnerability Index, MVI, as a fairer, more accurate assessment tool for small states' eligibility for international financing and support. Acknowledging that existing national laws such as the Environmental Protection and Management Act of Antigua and Barbuda and the National Conservation and Environmental Management Act of St. Kitts and Nevis provide vital legal frameworks for environmental stewardship, but require full and rigorous enforcement. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Eastern Caribbean Youth Assembly, 1, calls on all Eastern Caribbean governments and stakeholders to actively promote and implement the principles and objectives outlined in the Antigua and Barbuda Agenda for SIDS, ABAS. 2, urges greater investment and emphasis on the development of sustainable tourism models and resilient infrastructure in the Eastern Caribbean. 3, engages youth participation and leadership in environmental conservation, sustainable innovation, and community-based resilience projects throughout the region. 4, calls upon international financial institutions and donor agencies to eliminate the outdated GDP per capita criterion and adopt the Multidimensional Vulnerability Index, MVI, as a primary tool to determine eligibility for concessional financing and development aid. 5, agitates for greater collaboration for the regional promotion of food security, green energy transition, water security, the circular economy, social protection, sustainable settlements, and sustainable industries, core tenets of the Sustainable Island State Agenda, and the involvement of youth for the achievement of the same. 6, demands full enforcement and resourcing of existing environmental legislation to ensure effective environmental governance. And 7, commits to sustained collaboration between the youth of Antigua and Barbuda and St. Kitts and Nevis to advance regional cooperation on sustainability and climate resilience. May it please you. Permit me now to begin my presentation, Mr. Speaker. Please. Mr. Speaker, today we gather in these hallowed halls of Parliament not merely as lawmakers, but as agents of sustainable development with the power to write resilience and sustainability into the very foundation of our nations. This resolution before us is evidence of what happens when youth leadership and government work hand in hand. It is proof that island leadership, no matter our size, can be bold and unyielding in the face of an existential crisis. Mr. Speaker, like all small island developing states, SIDS, St. Kitts and Nevis is grappling with the worsening impacts of a changing climate. Our second national communication to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, makes this painfully clear. Temperatures across our federation are projected to increase up to 3 degrees Celsius by the 2080s, with sea levels rising by up to 0.43 meters, Mr. Speaker. Already, the annual cost of hurricane damage averages US $7.2 million, while droughts have incurred direct losses on agriculture and water resources, crippling rural livelihoods. Coral reefs, which protect our coasts and sustain our fisheries, Mr. Speaker, are under mounting pressure from bleaching, ocean acidification, and pollution. And our tourism-dependent economy, which accounts for nearly 60% of GDP, remains acutely vulnerable to hurricanes, pandemics, or recessions. These reports do not just sit on shelves, Mr. Speaker. They warn us and call on us to act with urgency. Mr. Speaker, we live in a rapidly evolving climate, in a world shaken by geopolitical tensions. And while climate change respects no borders, it is the vulnerable among us who suffer the most. This is the essence of the triple planetary crisis: climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. Together, they reach into every corner of our lives, from the ridge to the reef, from the heat of the classroom to the depths of the ocean, Mr. Speaker. On land, we feel record-breaking heat. Farmers wrestle with failed crops. Consumers bear the burden of higher food prices. And health is affected not only by the heat, but by Sahara dust. At sea, our blue economy is threatened by coral bleaching and biodiversity loss. Our fisher folk, hard-working men and women who depend on this pillar to feed their families and put books in their children's bags, Mr. Speaker, now face shrinking fish populations and uncertain futures. But we cannot sit idly by, Mr. Speaker. We must act. And, Mr. Speaker, we are acting. Acting with foresight, grounded in an understanding of the effects on our citizenry, and by seeking solutions tailored to our island context. Progressive policy, project development, climate finance networks, and technical partnerships that ensure resilience is a reality we build every single day. Yes, Mr. Speaker, climate change is our reality, but our response is our power. We have collective advocacy, legal frameworks, climate-smart technologies, and the ingenuity of our people. As we respond with resolve, we must never forget no stone of our society is left unturned by this crisis. Tourism, health, water, agriculture, every sector feels its weight. But just as climate change leaves no stone unturned in its destruction, Mr. Speaker, this government is leaving no stone unturned in our solutions. It would be remiss of me not to highlight the leadership of our sister Antigua and Barbuda for championing the adoption of the Antigua and Barbuda Agenda for SIDS ABAS, a bold and progressive framework advancing sustainability and prosperity in small island states. Adopted in May 2024, ABAS lays out a 10-year roadmap to secure our survival and prosperity. It addresses urgent priorities we all share: energy transition, food and water security, debt sustainability, climate resilience, and biodiversity protection. It calls for practical innovations and for a shift toward regenerative and sustainable tourism. Antigua and Barbuda has given the world a blueprint for resilient prosperity, one that aligns seamlessly with our own sustainable island state agenda and reminds us that small nations can lead a sustainable global future. Mr. Speaker, as we touch on leadership, St. Kitts and Nevis is leading. We gave life to the Sustainable Island State Agenda, CISA. CISA is the vessel that carries our nation toward the year 2040 into an era of sustainability, the true pinnacle of our national development. And let me be clear, Mr. Speaker, 2040 is not when the work begins. It is when we envision the work nearing completion, when the bigger picture becomes clear. CISA is not a plan for tomorrow. It is a reality of now. It is the way we, as a nation, government, private sector, civil society, every household, reimagine our livelihoods and place sustainability at the heart of our national machinery. Through CISA, the government has cast a bold vision to cultivate a nation with a robust, diversified economy. We aim to attract green investments, foster industries built on sustainable resources, enhance economic stability, and create climate-smart jobs for our people. CISA rests on 7 key pillars: energy transition, water security, food security, sustainable industry, sustainable settlements, circular economy, and health and social protection. Each is a strategic anchor aligned not only with our initiatives, but with the very global goals that humanity itself must achieve. CISA is not foreign jargon. It is our lived reality. It is the bread and butter on our tables, the roof above our heads. It demands not just government action, but national participation. CISA is people-centered, community-driven, and inclusively sustainable. It mobilizes resources, creates visibility, inspires action, and most importantly, defines our destiny as a resilient people of a freedom land. CISA is not just you or I, Mr. Speaker. CISA is all of us. It is the generations yet unborn. It is our covenant with the future. Mr. Speaker, I wish to commend the government of St. Kitts and Nevis for the passage of the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center Agreement Bill 2024, a clear legislative signal that our federation is not merely discussing climate action, Mr. Speaker. We are delivering it. This act bolsters our partnership with the region's lead climate institution and empowers coordination, policy support, and project execution across CARICOM. In doing so, we unlock access to expertise, climate finance, and readiness support, all vital tools in building a sustainable island state. By passing this bill and ratifying the agreement, our government has strengthened the machinery that helps us fund and implement real projects like resilient infrastructure and coastal protection. This is leadership, Mr. Speaker. This is St. Kitts and Nevis meeting the climate era at the front line, shoulder to shoulder with our Caribbean family. Mr. Speaker, tourism, our economic lifeblood, and that of our Eastern Caribbean counterparts, stands at risk from rising seas, raging storms, and the influx of sargassum blooms. Despite this, our Tourism Climate Action Plan establishes a bold pathway: halve emissions by 2030 and reach net zero by 2050, while protecting reefs, modernizing ports, investing in renewable energy hotels, and advancing sustainable building codes. When we safeguard reefs, we safeguard fisheries. When we modernize ports, we secure the cruise industry. When we invest in sustainable tourism, we preserve culture and create opportunity. Tourism is not just policy, it is the hope of our people. Mr. Speaker, we are deeply concerned that international financing agencies continue to use GDP per capita as the yardstick for concessional financing, unfairly excluding vulnerable island states from aid that could determine our survival. This blunt metric ignores our reality. Small economies where a single hurricane can erase decades of progress. Hurricane Omar in 2008 forced the closure of the Four Seasons in Nevis, costing hundreds of jobs, Mr. Speaker. Hurricane Georges in 1998 damaged 85% of homes and caused over $400 million in damage, 170% of GDP, Mr. Speaker. These are the real effects of this crisis. We cannot turn our backs, Mr. Speaker. That is why we support the adoption of the Multidimensional Vulnerability Index, MVI, a fairer tool that recognizes our vulnerabilities and ensures access to the financing we urgently need. Each year at COP, we who contribute the least must bargain for the very funds to save us, while the nations most irresponsible still guard the resources, Mr. Speaker. This is not climate justice. It is unconscionable inequity. We have heard the promises, $100 billion a year pledged by developed nations. Yet even with the operationalization of the Loss and Damage Fund, resources remain short and access uncertain. Too often, adaptation goes unfunded and resilience unrealized. Once again, Mr. Speaker, islands like ours must demand not pity but justice, not charity but survival. Climate change is not fear. Industrialization is not fear. But at least let our survival be fear. Let the MVI be adopted. Let climate finance not flow as charity, but as justice owed. We demand survival, and we will not be silent until small island states are heard, until fairness prevails, and until our children inherit not destruction, but hope. Mr. Speaker, existing laws like our National Conservation and Environmental Protection Act and the Environmental Protection and Management Act of Antigua and Barbuda provide vital frameworks for environmental stewardship and societal transformation. But laws are only as strong as their enforcement, and enforcement is only as strong as the conscience of society. Policy is power, but policy is also behavior. It takes governments to legislate, promote, and enforce, but it takes people to absorb, to comply, and to hold themselves accountable. Some complain about the strictness of environmental legislation, but I say, was progress ever easy? The internet, now instantaneous, was once the frustration of waiting. Innovation required patience, sacrifice, and vision. Likewise, environmental policy may feel burdensome today, but it is the price of survival tomorrow. The earth cannot wait, Mr. Speaker. Ecosystems collapsing cannot wait. St. Kitts and Nevis is blessed, but blessings can be squandered. If unchecked, our soil washes away, our seas rise above us, and our survival is imperiled. Mr. Speaker, we must show the world that we too can lead, that small states can implement the changes even the developed world struggles to embrace. For this is no longer a matter of preference. It is the imperative of reversing the triple planetary crisis that is wiping humanity off the map. Let us act with foresight, discipline, and selflessness, so that our children may inherit not crisis, but continuity. In closing, Mr. Speaker, I call upon all Eastern Caribbean governments and the entire world to promote the principles of the Antigua and Barbuda Agenda for SIDS, to invest boldly in sustainable tourism and resilient infrastructure, to empower our youth to lead in conservation and innovation, to demand that international institutions adopt the Multidimensional Vulnerability Index, to deepen our regional collaboration on food, water, energy, circular economy, and social protection, and to ensure the enforcement of environmental laws. Let us relinquish the insular paradigms that divide us and unite to survive. Beyond this call, I commit to sustaining the collaboration between the youth of Antigua and Barbuda and the youth of St. Kitts and Nevis, building on the partnership we have forged, and to continue voicing the concerns of young people for their amplified inclusion in all spaces. For it is by empowering their innovation that we accelerate the progress we aspire toward, ensuring that resilience and sustainability are not only words spoken in chambers, but realities lived across our islands. May it please you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you to the Honourable Minister of Sustainable Development, Environment and Climate Action. Just a second, Leader of Opposition. Leader of Opposition, just a second. So I recognize the Honourable Leader of Opposition. The mover would have spoken for 16 minutes and 44 seconds. So as agreed upon, this is the time that you cannot exceed.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for your kind acknowledgement. Mr. Speaker, members in the gallery, fellow youth parliamentarians, and those tuning in online, good morning. I stand here today speaking not solely on behalf of the Antigua and Barbuda delegation or on behalf of St. Kitts and Nevis, but on behalf of the region's youth. We did say when we were coming here today that we were not going to speak on our issues solely, but we're speaking on youth issues throughout the Caribbean region. So I want that to be taken into consideration when I speak and the points that I make here today. Today is not a first, Mr. Speaker. The National Youth Parliament Association of Antigua and Barbuda and SKNYPA have sat in this chamber together. But today is the first inaugural sitting of the Eastern Caribbean Youth Parliament Network, a living sign that our region's youth leaders are ready not just to speak, but to shape policy. It is also proof of something deeper. It is proof that in the Eastern Caribbean, youth leadership is not a slogan, it is a standard. We gather as small island states facing large, overlapping pressures, climate shocks, fragile infrastructure, tight fiscal shape, and global systems that too often misunderstand our vulnerabilities. We cannot deny this. The resolution before us captures critical priorities: resilience, sustainability, fairer financing, and youth leadership. And for that, I commend the Honourable Minister of Sustainable Development for bringing this resolution to this House. But Mr. Speaker, this sitting is also about something bigger than any single clause within this resolution. It is about regional collaboration. By meeting as the SKNYPA, we are signaling to our region and to the world that the Caribbean's youth are prepared to act together. We want more countries to join us, to add their voices and experiences. Because while our realities may differ from island to island, they are also deeply similar. We shelter from the same storms, we have the same coastal risks, and the same financing barriers. So a unified youth voice from the Leeward Islands to the Windward Islands makes us stronger on the international stage, whether it is at SITS follow-ups, at COPs, or in front of international financing institutions. We need a unified voice. One region, many islands, but one message. We need fair rules, smart investment, and accountability that delivers for our people. As the leader of the opposition in this honourable House, let me state our position plainly. We support the resolution. In principle, we agree with its directions, implementing regional agendas, build resilient infrastructure and sustainable tourism, strengthen youth leadership, and enforce environmental laws that we have. We all know and we all agree that the climate is suffering and something needs to be done. The Minister of Sustainable Development stood up here this morning and spoke for 16 minutes and 44 seconds about a lot of things that we all agree upon, a lot of things that we would be fools not to agree with. But, Mr. Speaker, a lot of things that are not in the resolution, a lot of things that need to be placed into the resolution for accountability. Mr. Speaker, the young people of our countries, and by extension the region, deserve more than just good intentions. They deserve results with dates, dollars, and data. The Minister of Sustainable Development said it himself. The climate demands urgent action. So why do we not have dates written in the resolution? Why do we not have an action plan in the resolution? Let me help fix this gap. I will say that if the Honourable Minister of Sustainable Development agrees with the amendments that we will put forward this morning, then we will agree with the resolution being passed. Otherwise, I'm not quite sure that we will. As it relates to the amendments, I'm going to put forward 5 simple, common sense amendments that can go into this resolution. Number 1, timelines and targets. Right now, if we look at the resolution, now therefore be it resolved, it goes on to 7 points. There are some very fancy, nice verbs there. We urge, we encourage, we demand, we agitate, but I see no deadline and no numbers. That's like saying, I'll study for exams soon, but you have no plan, no timetable. You're not saying how long, which subject. We need clear dates and measurable goals. Don't just dream, give us dates. We cannot manage what we do not measure, and we will not deliver what we do not date. This resolution calls on the Eastern Caribbean governments and stakeholders to actively promote and implement the principles and objectives outlined in the ABAS. But how? Should they implement new laws? What are we calling on them to do? And by when? I want to suggest to this Honourable House that in Clause 1 we amend it to say, be it further resolved that Member States adopt by March 31st, 2026, the national ABAS delivery plans with annual targets, including renewable energy share, number of climate retrofitted public buildings, especially for schools and clinics, and kilometers of restored or protected coastal lines. And we need to see progress reports. So it can also include, and I love that the Honourable Minister is writing my suggestion down. It can also include putting in annual progress reports, semi-annually, annually, something that keeps us accountable. This turns a worthy direction into a work program that the public can track. The second amendment. Let us talk about financing with a money map, leveraging the MVI. The text rightly champions the Multidimensional Vulnerability Index, acknowledging the injustices of the GDP-only eligibility for a concessional finance. But it doesn't show how we get the money. That's like saying, I'll go and buy some groceries, but you show up to the grocery store with no wallet, no money. How are you buying the groceries? We need a money map. Which projects do we need cash for? What funds will we use? How much are we going to apply for? How much was approved? And how much actually arrived? We need a pipeline of bankable projects matched to the relevant windows. And so, Mr. Speaker, Clause 4, if you allow me, says, calls upon international financial institutions and donor agencies to eliminate the outdated GDP per capita criterion and adopt the multidimensional vulnerability index as a primary tool to determine eligibility for concessional financing and development aid. I want to suggest the amendment to include that we urge governments to table MVI-aligned financing strategies by September 30th or any other day that we as a House decide on, 2026, identifying priority projects, financing instruments, and co-financing plans, and to present again annual uptake reports to Parliament detailing amounts applied for, approved, disbursed, and outstanding. This way, we hold ourselves accountable. The third amendment I wish to lay before this Honourable House deals with the enforcement of laws. The resolution, as it stands right now, demands full enforcement of existing environmental laws. We have the Environmental Protection and Management Act in Antigua and Barbuda, the National Conservation and Environmental Protection Act in St. Kitts and Nevis. This is essential. We understand that these laws are essential, and we agree that they're essential. But the public has a right to evidence of enforcement. The text says, enforce the laws. Great, yeah, enforce the laws. But how will the public know that it's happening? That's like telling kids, do your homework, but you never actually check to see if they did it. How are you so sure that they did? We need an annual public report with information about inspections being done, any breaches that are found, whatever penalties were imposed, and compliance rates. If you say the laws work, prove it with the numbers. And so I wish to suggest an amendment to Clause 6, which says, it calls for an annual environmental enforcement report to be laid in Parliament by whatever date we agree upon in this Honourable House, let's say May 31st, every year, detailing inspection numbers, breaches detected, actions taken, penalties imposed, and compliance rates across sectors, and for tourism and infrastructure approvals to be contingent on published environmental impact assessments that meet climate resilience standards, which I know that Antigua does implement. This is not red tape, this is trust building. The fourth amendment, Mr. Speaker, deals with young people and young people's participation in decision making. I applaud the emphasis on youth participation and leadership, but participation without voting power risks tokenism. Many a time we stand and we speak, whether it is in honourable chambers and houses across the region, or even within our day-to-day conversations, you always hear the sentiments being shared that young people's voices are heard and then not taken into consideration. They go in through one ear, it comes out another. This is what we call tokenism. We all know this term. And the way that the resolution is worded right now can open the door to tokenism, and we need to stop it. We need to nip it in the bud before it gets to that stage. We need to ensure that the resolution speaks to not only youth participation, but giving the young people a vote on the tables. We must institutionalize youth seats with a vote on national bodies that decide climate priorities, budgets, and oversight. So young people are not only in the room, they're not sitting on the side, they're not sitting at the table with their mouths closed. They are at the table deciding. They are being asked specifically, what are your thoughts? What is your vote? Are you in agreement or disagreement? And their vote counts. And for that, I want to suggest the amendment to Clause 3 to replace the generic encourages youth participation clause with enjoins member states to designate 2 voting youth seats. And, well, we had a debate as it relates to what we're classifying as youth, whether it is 30, 35, 29, so we can also decide on that. So you're going to designate 2 voting youth seats on national climate and disaster risk governance bodies by, and we put a date, June 30th, 2026, 31st of December, 2025. But when we're selecting the dates, obviously we have to be realistic with the dates. But we give a date selected through transparent processes with gender balance. Now, I want to emphasize why I wanted to say transparent processes and gender balance. We've asked for 2 seats, so 1 for a male, 1 for a female. This allows for us to get the realities of young persons from the different experiences that people have based on their gender. The transparency processes ensures that the people who are actually given these seats are not persons who are chosen through corruption. They're not persons who are chosen because they have a link. They are persons...
And remember, you have 2 minutes remaining.
Guided, Mr. Speaker. They are persons who are chosen based on their capabilities and merit. Young people should not only be in the room, they should be at the table with a vote. The 5th Amendment, Mr. Speaker. The resolution's collaboration clause spans food security, water security, green energy, etc., etc. That range is right, I agree with it, but we need execution infrastructure. We need a regional pipeline of projects with technical assistance, procurement readiness, and youth-led components. So for the interest of time, I'm just going to go straight into what I'm suggesting the amendment to be. So for Clause 5, I am suggesting we insert that we direct the relevant CARICOM technical agencies to publish a semi-annual regional project pipeline across the named sectors, including at least 1 youth-led component per year, with standardized templates for feasibility, safeguards, and financing readiness. I also think that we need to amend Clause 7, which speaks to the collaboration between SKNYPA and the NYPAAB, to be very specific. Let it say what we are doing when we're collaborating. We can amend it to say something along the lines of establish the St. Kitts and Nevis Antigua and Barbuda Youth Climate Task Force to co-design at least 3 cross-border projects per year, whatever they are, and give a date, a month that they should be done by. And let's make it robust. Let's not have it solely about St. Kitts and Antigua. Let's make way to allow other countries to join into this partnership as what we are doing with the ECYPN. Mr. Speaker, these 5 amendments are not about changing the spirit of the resolution. They're about completing it. The members may stand after me and state ideas and say that, oh, I have said X, Y, and Z, but these are the ideas. But we need it on paper. We need to hold ourselves accountable. So in closing, Mr. Speaker, I see that you're giving me that smile. I want to say that history will remember whether we stood up here at this inaugural sitting of the ECYPN and used this moment to repeat old vocabulary, to repeat the same thing all the time, speaking with no actions, or whether we used this historic moment to set a new practice of accountable action. If you decide that you want to implement these amendments, then we will agree with the passage of this resolution. We want dates we can meet, a money map we can verify, enforcement reports we can examine, youth votes that carry weight, and a regional project pipeline we can fund and build. Let us send a single, clear message from our islands to the international arena. We may be small in landmass, but we are large in unity, clarity, and resolve. On this basis, Mr. Speaker, we will vote yes on the resolution, but only if the amendments are made, if it pleases you.
Thank you, Honourable Leader of Opposition. Before we continue, permit me to recognize some senior officials who have joined us in the gallery. I wish to recognize the Honorable Lanine K. Blanchett, Speaker of the National Assembly of St. Christopher and Nevis, the Honorable Dr. Jeffrey Hanley, Acting Prime Minister of the Federation, as well as one of the founding fathers of the St. Kitts National Youth Parliament Association. I also recognize Ms. Patrice Harris, a former president of the St. Kitts National Youth Parliament Association, and Reverend Cyprian Williams, the Ombudsman of St. Kitts and Nevis. We thank you all for lending your presence to us this morning as we debate this critical issue. I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for your kind acknowledgement this morning. I rise in full and unwavering support of the resolution calling for stronger regional action towards environmental resilience and sustainable development. St. Kitts and Nevis, Mr. Speaker, a twin island federation, unlike any other in this assembly, and similarly, Antigua and Barbuda, another twin island state, does not only speak with one voice. We speak with two hearts, united in purpose, beating towards one shared future. Our unique political structure demands that our foreign policy is agile, inclusive, and deeply strategic. And that's exactly what we have delivered. As Minister of Foreign Affairs et al., I have taken our sustainable island state agenda beyond our shores, into the halls of the United Nations, the boardrooms of donor agencies, the corridors, Mr. Speaker, of diplomatic negotiations. Not with begging bowls, but with bold ideas, credible policies, and a clear national agenda. The results, the opposition wonder, Mr. Speaker. In April 2025, we secured US $13 million from the Taiwan International Cooperation and Development Fund, ICDF, to complete the Bastille desalination plant, ensuring water security, climate resilience, and a reliable future of our people. And my minister will come later and speak on that. We joined hands, Mr. Speaker, with the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, gaining over US $730,000 to develop the St. Kitts and Nevis Climate Smart Agriculture Project, a lifeline for our farmers, a blueprint, Mr. Speaker, for sustainable food systems. And through our partnership, Mr. Speaker, with the Global Center for Climate Mobility, we launched the Communities Climate Adaptation Facility, empowering local projects to fight climate change from the ground up. And this year, Mr. Speaker, we became the 17th country to join the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty discussions, because we know the real leadership, Mr. Speaker, is about courage, not comfort. But diplomacy is not all about deals. It's about defending our dignity. And when international agencies still use outdated GDP metrics to deny us concessional financing, we do not sit in silence. We stand shoulder to shoulder with Antigua and Barbuda and all SIDS, advocating fiercely for the multidimensional vulnerability index, because vulnerability is not just a number. It is the lived Caribbean reality. Colleagues, let me make it clear. We are not victims. We are visionaries. We are not waiting for solutions. We are building them from the ground up. Our flagship SKN100 project is aiming for 100% renewable electricity and maximum energy efficiency in public buildings within 3 years. Wow. Mr. Speaker, they ask for deadlines, they get deadlines. It's financed by the Global Environment Facility, implemented by the UN Environment Programme, and executed by CCREE. This is what real results-based diplomacy looks like. Mr. Speaker, I've left the leader of the opposition for the Minister of Sustainable Development to address. I don't want to address her in this speech, Mr. Speaker. So when the opposition talks about sustainability and accountability, I ask, where were you? Where were your signed treaties? Where were your partnerships? And where was your vision? The opposition speaks of resilience, but we are the ones building desalination plants, Mr. Speaker. The opposition talks about climate action, but we are the ones having emissions. The opposition speaks about youth empowerment, but is this government, this foreign ministry, under this leadership, that is bringing international funding directly into the hands of young farmers, engineers, and innovators. Mr. Speaker, if ever there was a time for a relentless, results-driven foreign policy, it is now. When a Category 5 hurricane appears in July, even in August, as we have seen just this past weekend, something unheard of in our region,
Honourable
we must
Member,
ask,
I have to encourage you to wind up your presentation.
And most importantly, Mr. Speaker, I remind the opposition that the Caribbean, the youth of the Caribbean, is of this able government, has able position transformation with our evidently capable Minister of Sustainable Development. Let us stand as one voice, loud, resilient, and indomitable. May it please you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you to the Honourable Prime Minister. Before we continue, I wish to acknowledge the presence of Dr. the Honourable Sean Richards, the Parliamentary Representative for St. Christopher 5. I recognize the Attorney General and Minister of Legal and Justice Affairs.
Good morning, and thank you for acknowledging me, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, honorable members of this Assembly, before I speak as Attorney General and Minister of Legal and Justice Affairs, allow me to speak as a daughter of the Caribbean. I remember vividly the night Hurricane Irma passed in 2017, not through a screen, but through a fear in the voices of loved ones as roofs were torn away, homes swallowed by waves, and our twin island nation, Barbuda, shaken to its core. In that moment, no one asked about GDP or politics. They asked the most basic legal question: who will protect us? In the days that followed, when neighbors became rescuers, schools became shelters, we saw the truth. Our greatest strength as small island states lies not in wealth, but in unity, resilience, and the will to rebuild, even when the global system seems stacked against us. Mr. Speaker, this is why we're here today. Mr. Speaker, the opposition insists that they're not opposing for opposing's sake. Yet, from their posture, it seems as though they expect a full manual, every detail laid out. But, Mr. Speaker, a resolution is not the entire building. It is just the blueprint. And that is why I rise today in full support of this resolution. Because it is not just a policy, it is a promise. Mr. Speaker, a promise that our laws will be lived and not just written, and our agreements will be action and not just ink on paper, and that the unity of Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, and all our sister islands will be more than just words. It will be action. We will not only make bold declarations, but we'll put our money where our mouth is. Mr. Speaker, this debate, while between Antigua and St. Kitts, is not a contest of competing needs. It is an acknowledgement that our issues are one and the same. United in our fight for environmental resilience, sustainable development, and climate justice. Justice demands that our laws serve as the first shield of protection for our people. Mr. Speaker, our legal framework already provided tools to act. In Antigua and Barbuda, the Environmental Protection and Management Act governs conservation, pollution control, and sustainable resource use. St. Kitts and Nevis has similar protection under its National Conservation and Environmental Management Act. However, laws without enforcement are like locks without keys. They may exist, but they offer no real protection. This resolution rightly calls for full enforcement and adequate resourcing. We must ensure that our statutes are more than just words on paper. This resolution also commends our government's adoption of the Antigua and Barbuda Agenda for SIDS and the Sustainable Island State Agenda. These frameworks align with international treaties, but our task is to transform those ambitious pledges into concrete, enforceable laws and actionable policies. As Minister of Justice, I believe that we must strengthen environmental litigation pathways, ensure public access to environmental information, and enable citizens, including our youth, to hold both public and private entities accountable. And let us not underestimate the legal role of regional collaboration. The recent passage of the Caribbean Community Climate Change Act Agreement Bill 2024 in St. Kitts and Nevis is a step towards harmonized legislation and coordinated action. Mr. Speaker, beyond harmonization, I believe the time has come for Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, and the wider Eastern Caribbean to go a step further. We must explore the creation of a regional environmental resilience policy, a shared legal framework that establishes collective standards and obligations, while allowing each island to adapt to its own context. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I will say this. The choices we make today will echo for generations to come. Will we be the generation that looked away as the seas rose, or the generation that stood firm and said, not under our watch? The water may separate our shores, but it cannot divide our cause. Let us rise to the occasion, united across islands to protect our homes, empower our youth, and secure a sustainable future for all Eastern Caribbean people. Mr. Speaker, the law is on our side. The urgency is at our door, and the time for action is now. If it pleases you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you to the Honorable Attorney General. I recognize the Honorable Member for All Saints West.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, and to our honorable members, guests in the gallery, and to our listening audience. Now, Mr. Speaker, before I begin, I must say to our honorable Prime Minister, you asked where the opposition was, but let me remind you, you don't really invite us to your meetings. And I truly thought that we were striving to function as a unified body, yet his remarks show that he still seeks division. Now, let it be known, however, that no statement from the other side will deter us. We will continue to stand strong and advocate for our people. And to my honorable friend, Mr. Honorable Attorney General, Mrs. I should say, I must add, we cannot keep making promises without delivery. If it means that we must rise, yes, if it means that we must rise in this chamber every single time to call for action, then that is exactly what we're going to do. And Madam AG, I agree with you. We want to see you put the money where your mouth is, because our people deserve more than words, and they deserve results. Now, Mr. Speaker, let it be clear, I'm not against this resolution, as it speaks to issues that are critical for the survival and prosperity of our small island states. But, Mr. Speaker, if we are to be effective, then our approach must be grounded in practical action, not in ineffective words on paper. Now, Mr. Speaker, the 2030 agenda for sustainable development is very clear. One second, let me move this chair. Yeah. It's very clear. We cannot achieve sustainable development without inclusive decision-making. And one of our sustainable development goals, 16, emphasizes on inclusive, collaborative, and representative institutions at all levels. Now, Mr. Speaker, within our resolution here, point 6, it demands full enforcement and, Point 3, encourages youth participation and leadership. Now, Mr. Speaker, I would acknowledge that our young people have indeed been invited into consultations, and their voices have been heard in drafting various policies. But, Mr. Speaker, hearing is not the same as recognizing. Too often, their ideas are included in discussions, but when the final drafts are produced, their contributions are not properly acknowledged or referenced. And recognition matters, Mr. Speaker. It validates the role of young people and makes the involvement consistent and meaningful. Our young people should not feel like they should feel like partners in policies and not just participants in dialogue. Now, Mr. Speaker, we want to go to point 6, where it demands full enforcement and resourcing of existing environmental legislation to ensure effective environmental governance. And allow me to just reason with our honorable members and you, Mr. Speaker. While we speak about sustainability, we must also confront a painful reality at home. Our challenges with, I will give an example, waste management. Now, we talk about illegal dumping as it merely a problem of law enforcement. But the truth is, Mr. Speaker, if people dump regular because they don't have effective garbage collection and it's not accessible to them, right? If there is no reliable means for them to dispose of this waste, what do we expect from them? But before we can enforce laws, Mr. Speaker, we must first educate our people on how to care for and protect these islands we call home. Mr. Speaker, education and access must come before punishment. And then if our people do not adhere to our rules or they're not educated properly, then or they don't want to listen, then I can say we are to ensure our laws are strongly enforced. Now, Mr. Speaker, I know I have a short time. I don't have that privilege of speaking for 16 minutes and 44 seconds, right? So, now on the matter of regional cooperation, Mr. Speaker, we often say we are united as small island developing states. Yet the reality is far different. Too often, our islands compete against each other for foreign investments, and in many cases, some are even willing to bend the rules to accommodate outside interests. This now undermines the standards we claim to uphold. What makes it worse, Mr. Speaker, as a nation, we really contribute to the least to climate change, yet we are the ones suffering the most. Mr. Speaker, we were once a people who came together in the spirit of unity. That must not be lost. This is why true collaboration is so important. And to that end, Mr. Speaker, I would support the creation of a joint SIDS and CISA technical secretariat. Such a body will coordinate research, knowledge sharing, a joint project development between Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, and eventually the wider region. This would help us pool resources, prevent duplication, and stand as a stronger, unified voice on the international stage.
Honourable Member, I'm going to ask you to wind up your debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, Mr. Speaker, the opposition does not reject the resolution, but we urge that it be strengthened. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, let me wrap it up as you said. Let me say this. If we are to achieve resilience, we must strengthen consultation with our people, especially our young people, and ensure that consultation is matched by recognition. We must educate our people consistently, provide them with the means to be responsible, and where necessary, strengthen enforcement of our laws. Only then can this resolution move from words on paper to real change in the lives of our citizens. And I want to send a message, a single clear message from our islands to the international arena. We may be small in land mass, but we are large in unity, clarity, and resolve. May
Thank you, honourable members. Just a reminder to the remaining members that we are constrained for time, and so I'm asking you as much as possible to stick within the agreed time agreement, or we will begin enforcing. I recognize the Honourable Minister of Finance.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the acknowledgement. Good morning to my colleagues, those in the gallery. Mr. Speaker, St. Kitts is sinking. Nevis is sinking. Antigua is sinking. Barbuda is sinking. You see those looks of concern that came up on your face? These are the looks of the leaders in Tuvalu, a small island state, low-lying, now losing its land, people, and culture to rising seas. Now, this is not just Tuvalu's story, but it's our shared existential reality. On the streets, we hear complaints about sustainability initiatives, the forks from KFC, why we bother contribute when we contribute so little to climate change. But I have one question for everyone sitting here. Have you walked outside today? Not just from your car to the chambers, but through the streets of Bastia? And did you feel the heat? Do you see the people walking around with handheld fans? Because we start to chuckle every time. But Mr. Speaker, imagine that heat doubled. This is not just theoretical, but existential. This is why we aim to recalibrate our development path and work towards a brighter future. We must change our views and habits to protect our people and the cultures of our small islands. Mr. Speaker, it is my role as the Minister of Finance and Economic Development to ensure that prudent decisions are made and that we weigh opportunity costs. But we must think holistically, economically, environmentally, and social sustainability all put together. For us, sustainability is not just a slogan, but it's about ensuring our people can live well without compromising their future. Now, Mr. Speaker, to be honest, this is a very costly venture, and we are very cognizant of that. But as Senator Joel Clark put it, risk take cost. And Mr. Speaker, we must decide what risk is worth it. We can invest in the future or play a waiting game and face the consequences. Now, the global movement towards sustainability supports islands transitioning with grants, concessional loans, green bonds to help small island states just like ourselves to become more resilient and self-sufficient. But Mr. Speaker, when the member opposite speaks to us allocating and determining where funds are being placed, Mr. Speaker, accessing these grants requires such strict conditions. And for Antigua and St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua and Barbuda, our classification and our qualification for these loans are eliminated from the time we say high-income countries. Mr. Speaker, this means we cannot access green financing as easily as it may seem to the opposition leader. Mr. Speaker, after years of fiscal discipline, targeted capital expenditure, and social investments, this is the reward, prudent stewardship, and we are excluded from grants and concessional financing. because we are simply labeled as high-income countries based on the gross national income per capita or the gross domestic product. Mr. Speaker, St. Kitts and Nevis, along with Antigua and Barbuda, are the only ECCU countries with this label. However, we have other Caribbean counterparts who are facing the same issues, stifling our opportunities for support and resilient financing. Therefore, the proposal to replace the the gross national income per capita, to use the MVI. Mr. Speaker, the GNI is an aggregate indicator which provides an average income of a country. This does not account for the structural vulnerabilities, economic shocks, or resilience of our countries. It does not show how economic shocks can eliminate all of our gains, our progress, our development, and raise our debt overnight. Yet, it is the yardstick for debt relief, climate finance, and grant support. This means we are left to fund climate adaptation and restructure from our own limited resources. As SIDS, we bear uninsured risk daily, addressing the world's climate crisis while being told we are too rich for help. The UN notes that SIDS are responsible for only 0.2% of global carbon emissions. Yet we suffer some of the worst impacts of climate change. Mr. Speaker, we drink in bush for other people's coals because these coals will impact us more significantly than in developed countries. There are 3 areas, Mr. Speaker, that are used when determining an index for shifting towards a more sustainable and a more accurate measurement. And 3 of these principles include universality, which means it's applicable to all countries, multidimensional, so it encompasses economic, environmental, and societal, and separability. We should be able to separate our vulnerabilities, structural and general. The proposition for us to use the MVI, or the Multidimensional Vulnerability Index, is proposed as it considers more than just the income level of a country, but ranks the level of vulnerability, integrating economic vulnerability, environmental exposure, and social vulnerability.
Honourable Member, I'm going to ask you to wind up your presentation.
Noted, Mr. Speaker. Context is key, and if we look at the cost that Dominica has suffered, 1.3 billion in economic losses, 95% of homes in Barbuda were estimated to be destroyed. Mr. Speaker, I think we should all be in full support of this resolution. Mr. Speaker, we are not just seeking charity, but an equal opportunity in a global financing system, which recognizes the realities of SIDS. We are asking for less stringent conditions, better loan rates, debt pause clauses, and climate insurance that truly benefits us. But, Mr. Speaker, it would be void of me before I end to not pause to extend thanks to the facilities and organizations that have taken a chance on us as a small country. We may be small, but we talawa, and we will keep moving forward in spite. May it please you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I recognize the Honourable Member for St. Christopher 8 to make his presentation.
Mr. Speaker, members of this Joint Youth Assembly, strangers, young people far and near, and all those who hear my illustrious voice, it is time for something new. Yet again, honorable members, we are here discussing the prevalence of sustainable development. We're here persuading, debating, demanding that we start to invest in a sustainable society. Yet again, this House has been called to order in an attempt to bring awareness to a society that is resilient to this changing world. But it now begs the question, is this government serious? Is this concept conducive to the ongoing realities that this government is perpetuating? And so, Mr. Speaker, the task before us is not merely to speak of change, but to demand sustainable progress, resilient action, and to demand something new. Mr. Speaker, let me remind us of the definition of sustainable development. As defined in the 1987 Brundtland Report, it is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. It suggests that our progress today must be built on foundations strong enough to carry the weight of tomorrow by ensuring that the systems we build can withstand shocks, adapt to change, and serve our people for decades to come. Take a look around and ask yourself, is this a society that is reflective of that definition? Or even a society that is heading in that direction? Or infrastructure, sustainable infrastructure. This means that the infrastructure is resilient and that years down the line, the building, road, and structure is not degraded. It means that it's resilient to weather and a bit hurricane resistant. Can we truthfully say that? What about our energy, sustainable energy? I must admit that we have made substantial strides in this area. And I must also admit that we have mastered the art of making strides without ever getting it done. Decades have passed since we were speaking about geothermal energy. And to the Honorable Prime Minister, he said he's setting deadlines. Is 10 deadlines done set for this geothermal energy journey? And nothing keeping, Mr. Speaker. Every other year, the same song is sung that we are trying to get it done. But alas, and if we continue on this trend, we will most definitely not see these goals attained in 2030. What I will do is commend the government of Antigua and Barbuda for recognizing that we're in the area by refining and resetting their goals and time frame in developing the Abbas plan. Although there is still the trend across the region that the talk of sustainability has continued to be just talk. Mr. Speaker, I'm speaking about sustainable progress, getting it done, being resilient. I am speaking about this country having that renewable energy plant, that solar farm, and that wind turbine farm. And 5 years down the line, it is still operational. That is the definition of sustainable development. How can we justify that 10 years from now, the building that millions of taxpayers' money was put into is now vacant and we're renting? Our schools where we're breeding young leaders, young entrepreneurs, still in the dilapidated conditions they are in, no proper maintenance, no sustainability, and no efforts to recognize these unsustainable practices and attack them head on. How can we justify that 10 years from now, a just named hurricane can come to a Caribbean country and wipe out 90% of our economy when we expect one to come every single year? And we call that resilience? In Asher's own words, you like that? Me not like that there. Mr. Speaker, history will not judge us kindly if we continue to settle for the status quo. The future of the Caribbean demands bold leadership, innovative solutions, and a commitment to sustainable progress. It means that we, the young people, refuse to accept mediocrity, refuse to accept stagnation, and refuse to accept excuses. Prime Minister Motley once reminded us that it is our duty to hold on. It is our duty to press on. It is our duty to take the long, deep breaths. But it is our responsibility always to ensure that we must make history trend in the right direction. Not for us who have lived life, and a lot of it already, but for the young ones who must now have that opportunity to appreciate the dignity of life. So I say, Mr. Speaker, to the youth of the Caribbean, to the leaders of tomorrow, and to the policy makers of today, that it is time, long past time, for something new. If it pleases you, Mr. Speaker, and if it pleases this Honorable House.
Thank you, kindly Honorable Member. I recognize the
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member Minister of Infrastructure, Energy, Information, Communication, and Technology.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to mention that the member didn't suggest any recommendations or anything, more theatrics. Yeah. But I rise to strongly support the resolution that is tabled today, Mr. Speaker. But before I get into my presentation, I must make mention that I stand here with great pride to contribute to a resolution on the Antigua and Barbuda SIDS Abbas, an agenda that was birthed at SIDS 4, hosted in my homeland, Antigua and Barbuda. Mr. Speaker, I had the opportunity to be a volunteer at the historic conference, and I listened as each member state representative spoke with passion, laying the real realities that we as small island development states face every single day. I heard leaders speak of coastlines are disappearing under the pressure of rising seas, water shortage, a crippling agriculture, and threatening food security. Hurricanes are going stronger and more destructive. And we saw how Hurricane Erin came at Category 5 in less than 48 hours. Mr. Speaker, and yet, amid these grave realities, I heard a common determination, a determination that though we are geographically exposed to external shocks, we will not simply accept vulnerabilities as our destiny. Mr. Speaker, this resolution calls for action, and I echo that call. I call on all Eastern Caribbean governments to actively promote and implement the principles and objectives outlined in Abbas. Youth should no longer just be observers, but should be leaders. And we should push for the adoption of multidimensional vulnerability index by international financial agencies. Mr. Speaker, I call on Eastern Caribbean government Eastern Caribbean government should be at the forefront, implementing and promoting the framework of Abbas, as we are all vulnerable to natural disasters and climate change shocks. Abbas emphasizes the need for resilient disaster-aware infrastructure. Integration of Abbas in each state will ensure that roads, bridges, power system, and ICT installations can withstand hurricanes, flooding, and other shocks. Abbas also calls for an energy transition that is just, inclusive, and resilient. Mr. Speaker, that aligns with building renewable energy like solar and wind. This is not only technically viable, but socially beneficial, creating employment and upscaling communities. Abbas also promotes knowledge-based economies and resilient development, which requires robust digital infrastructure, from broadband to cloud computing. Fully embracing Abbas means investing in digitally resilient systems like e-governance and early warning. Inclusive access is especially critical in emergency response and everyday development. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, the reality is our senior members in society are willing to pass on the baton. But the handover must happen at the same pace, or even faster. If we are to meet today's challenges, that means our youth must be engaged in the national conversation on climate resilience. With the advent of modern technology, we have an unprecedented opportunity to reach them, educate, inspire, and empower them to take charge in sustainable innovation, environmental conservation, and community-based projects. By doing so, Mr. Speaker, we ensure that the next generation is not only ready to inherit the future, but prepared to protect it and improve it. Mr. Speaker, one thing that is constant is change. Abbas has called for a shift from relying solely on the GDP, gross domestic product, and GNI, gross national income, to using multidimensional vulnerability index, NVI. This means moving away from an income-only assessment of development, and instead recognizing the full range of risks and realities that small island state faces. Mr. Speaker, imagine you go seek financing and you use your home as collateral, and the only thing they take into consideration is your one bedroom. They forget about the bathroom, the kitchen, and so forth, ignoring the rest of the home. That's what happens when development is measured only by GDP. The NVI, on the other hand, looks at the whole house, every room, the kitchen, the living room, the patio, even the possibility of a pipe being burst in your home. Mr. Speaker, it gives a fair and accurate picture. But as I conclude, Mr. Speaker, we must encourage all Eastern Caribbean governments to join the cause, because we are all vulnerable. Youth should no longer stay in the sidelines, but join the fight and call for the adoption of MVI. It is important that members on the other side join us and not be impregnated by ignorance. For doing so, they will birth destruction. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
9 months. 9 months.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I recognize the Honourable Member for St. Christopher too.
Good morning, all. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I rise in the People's Parliament to give my contribution. Our Caribbean may be small in size, but our challenges are immense, and so is our strength. Today we stand at a crossroad where inaction is no longer an option. The climate crisis is not a distant threat. It is a present reality affecting every island of this region. This resolution is about survival, unity, and the responsibility we owe to future generations. Here in St. Kitts and Nevis, droughts are drying up farmlands. Dominica is still rebuilding after Hurricane Maria. Barbuda had to evacuate entirely. Ministers, Let's bring to this crisis the same urgency and compassion we show when our people are in pain, when lives are shattered, and when our region needs us most. It was said in an IMF report that Dominica uses up to 2.2% in GDP every year from climate-related disasters. That could double by 2050. Behind those numbers are students sitting in classrooms with no roofs, fisher folk watching their catch disappear with a poof, as if someone is performing a magic trick, as reefs collapse. And don't forget our farmers left staring at parched lands. Yet, Mr. Speaker, some still treat this just as another item on the agenda. We're not in a moment of convenience. We're in a moment that demands action. Mr. Speaker, allow me to take you back to primary school for those who might have missed it. Action is the process of doing something rather than just thinking and talking about it. The climate will not wait for us to finish our political cycles. It will not pause while we write draft legislation. We must take action to address climate change. This resolution gives us the opportunity to show real leadership, not the kind that ends at the press conference, shows up for COP, gives a speech, and then disappears until the next one. The Caribbean needs more than visibility. It needs action. Let's not pretend we don't know what we need to be done. Many in our region are already trying to lead the way, and are taking bold steps towards climate resilience. Grenada has advanced grassroots programs engaging in local communities in adaptation. Barbados has become a leading voice for climate reform, challenging the lack of fair and timely funding for small island states. Bahamas has invested heavily in decentralized solar energy to reduce reliance on imported fossil fuels. Mr. Speaker, these examples prove that we are not short on ideas, but we are short on collective will. So let us be bold and think regionally. 1, a Caribbean green energy grid, a shared regional network that reduces our dependence on imported oil and creates a buffer against energy shocks when disaster strikes. If a hurricane knocks out power in one country, the others can keep the lights on. 2, a climate-resilient infrastructure. Let's stop building the same old, weak systems every hurricane season. Hospitals, roads, schools, these must be built to withstand Category 5 hurricanes. Anything less is a waste of time and a waste of money. 3, a regional innovation and research hub. Our young people must be equipped not only to survive climate change, but to lead the solutions. Let's train and fund Caribbean scientists, engineers, and climate leaders. Mr. Speaker, some in this chamber will ask, where's the budget for all of this? I ask in return, where is the budget for doing nothing? And to those who say, let's wait for more studies, I say, we have more studies than shelters, more frameworks and functioning drainage systems. What we lack is not information, but implementation. In closing, I support this resolution because failure is not an option when the future of our people is on the line. This goes beyond politics. This is about protecting our homes, safeguarding our people, and preserving our way of life. Let history remember this day, not as the day we hesitated, but the day we chose action. Let it be remembered as the moment the Caribbean stood tall, took charge, and chose to build a future we can be proud to pass on. May it please you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member for St. Christopher II. I recognize the Honorable Minister of Youth and Education.
Mr. Speaker, esteemed colleagues, and members of this Honorable House, I rise today in strong support of this resolution calling for stronger regional action towards environmental resilience and sustainable development. And as Minister of Youth and Education, I wish to emphasize the central role of young people in this transformation. Now, the member opposite threatened to take us back to primary school, but I say this: we are not here to revisit lessons we've already mastered. We are here to lead, innovate, and prepare our nation for the future. Mr. Speaker, young people are not just the leaders of tomorrow. We are the stakeholders of today. We will inherit the consequences of the decisions taken not only in this chamber, but throughout the world. That is why it is essential to ensure that youth are always placed at the forefront of policy development. In my capacity as Minister of Youth and Education, I must stress the importance of reshaping our educational priorities. Too often in the past, scholarships and training opportunities were narrowly concentrated in traditional professions. Law, medicine, and most recently technology. Everybody wants to be in cybersecurity. While these are vital, they cannot be the sole foundation of our economies. If we are serious about transforming our economies, we must diversify. But, Mr. Speaker, I am proud to say that my government is working. We are actively investing in agriculture, renewable energy, and technical and vocational training. We are committed to creating green jobs of the future, jobs that build a skilled, adaptable workforce ready to meet the challenges of climate change and economic uncertainty. The proof is in our youth, Mr. Speaker. One of our very own SKNYPArians, Mr. Chris Tyson, recently graduated from the National Pingtung University of Science and Technology in Taiwan with a degree in tropical agriculture and international cooperation. His achievement, yes it does, his achievement shows the value of expanding educational opportunities and highlights the potential of our young people to lead in food security and environmental sustainability. But, Mr. Speaker, this success also demonstrates the power of partnership. Our collaboration with the Republic of China and Taiwan through scholarships and academic exchanges gives our young people world-class training abroad and the skills to strengthen our nation at home. This is exactly the kind of cooperation that secures our collective future. The spirit of collaboration must continue to extend beyond our borders. I commend SKNYPA and the NYPAAB for laying the foundation for the Eastern Caribbean Youth Parliamentarian Network, a platform that ensures our young people are not only seen, but heard. Through this network, the youth of the Caribbean are given a collective voice, one strong enough to shape the policies of today and the future we will all share. United, we can drive a real and lasting change across our region. This resolution is not an end, it is a beginning. Today, we lay the foundation, and it is our responsibility to ensure the next generation inherits a strong base, one that they can build upon, innovate from, and improve. Mr. Speaker, the transformation towards our sustainable island state agenda will not be achieved overnight. Yet, through empowering our young people, diversifying opportunities, and strengthening collaboration across our region, we can make this vision a reality. The Eastern Caribbean Youth Parliament Network, championed by SKNYPA and the NYPAAB, is proof that when we give our youth a voice, they rise to the challenge of leadership and innovation. For these reasons, Mr. Speaker, I wholeheartedly support this resolution and pledge my ministry's commitment to advancing youth empowerment, driving educational reform, and promoting sustainable development, not only in St. Kitts and Nevis, but across the entire Eastern Caribbean. May it please you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I recognize the honorable member for St. Christopher 1.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, members of Parliament, good day. I rise today to discuss this resolution brought forward. Mr. Speaker, the Caribbean is home to over 44 million people who all face challenges every day. In the Caribbean Food Security and Livelihood Survey conducted by the United Nations, it is said that an estimated 3 million people are experiencing moderate to severe food insecurity. And this is a huge problem that we as a region have to face. Mr. Speaker, the Caribbean Food Import Bill in 2023, as stated by the ECCB, has reached over $2 million US. And this is only because of a fall in local production of food products. Only through regional collaboration, Mr. Speaker, can we curb our food security problem. But, Mr. Speaker, I hope this isn't another one of the government's gimmicks, because all that is being done is a bunch of talking and no action. Mr. Speaker, the motto, "No citizen should be left behind," is a stark reminder of the purpose of social protection, to protect and to reduce social inequality among our citizens. Mr. Speaker, our social protection net is currently failing, and this is due to the low budget that is normally placed on these initiatives and the reactive natures of our government only when things go wrong. They need to be more proactive to put things in place to ensure that things do not go wrong. Mr. Speaker, the Caribbean is prone to external shocks, and we need to form a net that can catch all our citizens when they fall. Despite our geography, Mr. Speaker, the Caribbean ranks among the most water-stressed regions in the world. A region rich in rainfall and rivers, yet many taps run dry. In Haiti, only 43% of the rural population has access to basic drinking water. And Mr. Speaker, the rest of the Caribbean are surviving off of the rationing of water throughout the year. Let's just take a look at our own island. St. Kitts, we ration water daily. Across the region, up to 50% of available water is lost due to outdated infrastructure and inefficiencies. We need to strengthen regional cooperation by sharing best practices and developing joint water resilience strategies. Mr. Speaker, water is not just a resource. It is the backbone of our public health, our food security, our economic growth, and climate resilience. Mr. Speaker, too often, youth are invited to the table only after decisions are made, and that must change. Mr. Speaker, the resolution calls for the collaboration of the youths in Antigua and Barbuda along with St. Kitts. And this agenda cannot be brought to fruition without the involvement of the youth and not just a seat at the table. Mr. Speaker, but a voice that will be heard and ideas that will be taken into consideration. Mr. Speaker, young people are not a demographic to be managed. They are a strategic asset to be mobilized for the betterment of our future. Mr. Speaker, the Caribbean is young. Over 60% of our population is under the age of 30. That is not a challenge. It is our greatest opportunity. Let us not build a future for youth. Let us build it with them. Let us not ask them to follow. Let us equip them to lead. To wrap up, Mr. Speaker, all points brought forward in this resolution require regional collaboration. And that is something that all of us in this parliament can agree on. In the great words of former Trinidadian Premier, Dr. Eric Williams, 1 from 10 leaves not. A powerful testament to the fact that disunity diminishes our collective strength. Only through regional collaboration can the Caribbean rise above the challenges that threaten our shared prosperity. Let us send a single clear message from our islands to the international arena. We may be small in landmass, but we are large in unity, clarity, and resolve. May it please you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member for St. Christopher 1. I recognize the Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Marine Resources.
Thank you for acknowledging me, Mr. Speaker. It is a great pleasure to stand here today to give my contribution as a young person. But it's very important that we not only have a discussion or a debate, but have a conversation, one that the people can relate to, one that those outside can understand. And I stand here to say that this matter before this Honourable House is not one for a distant theory. It is a question of survival. For us in the Eastern Caribbean, small island developing states, resilience, sustainability, what are they to us? They are not just buzzwords. They don't just sound good. They are the difference between prosperity and peril, between food on our tables and famine, and most importantly, between seas that feed us or seas that fail us. Mr. Speaker, that is why this resolution is so urgent. Our farmers and fishers are on the front line of this struggle. They know the weight of climate change, not through the reports we share, but through the lived reality. In Antigua and Barbuda, Mr. Speaker, we face the same issues, droughts, which scorch our fields and starve our livestock. In St. Kitts and Nevis, we have situations of hurricanes. But the thing about it, I'm happy that the opposition member stated, hurricanes don't just come once in a lifetime. They're repetitive, they're seasonal, so that we know when they are coming, and we shall make the necessary preparations. And I will see to such as Minister of Agriculture, in great collaboration with the government. Mr. Speaker, I'm not here for theatrics, you know. I'm here for the people. All right? That's the opposition's best skill, to be theatric and oppose and do the most. Stick to the presentation and do the job the people put you there to do. Come on, man. In St. Kitts and Nevis, as I mentioned, we face the hurricanes over and over. On top of that, Mr. Speaker, the rising cost of inputs, global market shocks, fragile supply chains, and what emerges is a sector on the siege. However, Mr. Speaker, I remain convinced that our agriculture and fisheries can move from being victims of climate change to the vanguard of resilience if we act boldly and if we act together. I do look forward for St. Kitts reaching 25 by 2025. And if we don't make it by 2025, we make it by 2027, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the SIDS4 conference held in Antigua and Barbuda reminds us of a timeless truth. Small islands cannot afford to face big challenges alone. This resolution calls us to turn that truth into action. That is why I am proposing farmer financing. Let our farmers have access to the necessary funding, not only the funding, but the administrative support. Let us help them to monitor their finances, their inputs, their outputs. Let us have smart farming technologies. We can't access these technologies without the proper financing. I want us to have drip irrigation, hydroponics, and innovation to make every acre count. Do you know that we're fortunate? Why have we never looked to the sea? Let us utilize our space, our homes, our garden, in our house, actually, and plant food that we can eat. We must look into regional partnership, memorandum of understanding, so no farmer or fisher is left behind, Mr. Speaker. And I say that I am proud to give the country of Venezuela, even St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Guyana, who can proudly boast to say, hey, they can feed themselves, Mr. Speaker. The country of St. Vincent would have partnered closely with Antigua and Barbuda and help us to regain and reproduce and repurpose our Antiguan black pine apple, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are one Caribbean. We have different benefits. Some may be larger than some may be bigger than some, and some may have different nutrient profiles, Mr. Speaker, and we must utilize it. It's also important for me to mention that recently, as the great colleague would have sent to me, that Antigua and Barbuda signed a new memorandum of understanding of Monday. And Antigua and Barbuda is poised to become a green shipping hub with a recent signing with VIA. This is the commitment we must prolong, Mr. Speaker. I'm calling for the strong enforcement, Madam AG. We will work together because law against illegal fishing, unsustainable clearing, and reckless development mean nothing unless it is enforced. These are not wish lists, Mr. Speaker. These are lifelines. Yes, laws we have, but enforcement we must strengthen. The Environmental Protection Act of Antigua and Barbuda and the National Conservation and Environmental Protection Act of St. Kitts and Nevis are strong foundations, but laws without enforcement is what? Mere ink on paper. Let this resolution give us the mandate to act, Madam AG. I want to see the enforcement of our agricultural zoning, land clearing and building practices, and marine resource management. This is not bureaucracy. This is our way forward, and this is how we will survive. Mr. Speaker, the Antigua and Barbuda agenda for SIDS, the ABAS, which I proudly boast and speak about, gives us a roadmap for agriculture. It highlights 4 priorities: food security, eat what we grow, grow what we eat. Every job conserved, recycled, and reused. Circular economy, waste into fertilizer, energy, and opportunity. And I'm also calling on my great colleague, Minister of Tourism, to see further collaboration, because I am of the opinion that agriculture and tourism can work together, not destruction of our assets, our natural images, to put up a structure, Mr. Speaker.
I remember I'm going to ask you to wind up your presentation.
No problem, Mr. Speaker. I'm also looking forward for youth involvement, empowering the next generation, ensuring that when we leave this room, our knowledge, the things said, doesn't only stay here, but it continues. A document is provided. We provide a way forward for the next coming parliamentary debaters, Mr. Speaker. By embedding these principles into our national and regional policies, this resolution moves from words to action and into transformation. Mr. Speaker, as I wrap up, resilience is not by speeches. It is built by farmers empowered, fishers protected, laws enforced, and the youth engaged. Let this resolution be more than ink on a page. Let it be the turning point when the Eastern Caribbean chooses action over excuses, and we work together as one Caribbean, one country, each endeavoring, all achieving. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you to the Honourable Minister of Agriculture. I now recognize the Opposition Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for acknowledging me. Mr. Speaker, I would firstly say good morning to the listening viewing audience and a special good morning to the people watching from home, Antigua and Barbuda. Mr. Speaker, before I dive into the real essence of my presentation, allow me to share an interaction that I recently had with a young lady from Barbuda. Mr. Speaker, we all know a couple years ago a hurricane tore through her home, leaving her family with nothing. But Mr. Speaker, instead of surrendering, she made a choice, and that's what stood out to me, to study disaster management and climate resilience. And when I asked her why, she told me, well, she didn't just want to rebuild her life. She wanted to rebuild the way that people think about climate resilience. And this resolution recognizes that reality, Mr. Speaker, and for this I must commend the government. Support for ABAS, the Antigua and Barbuda agenda for SIDS is welcome. The commitment to regional unity is also important. And the reference to St. Kitts and Nevis Sustainable Island State agenda shows we are taking ownership of our challenges. But, Mr. Speaker, good ideas must be matched with strong execution. And this is where my concern lies. Mr. Speaker, allow me to focus on point 3 of the resolution, which it states encourages youth participation and leadership in environmental conservation, sustainable innovation, and community-based resilience projects. Mr. Speaker, allow me to ask this Honourable House a question. Are we not tired of these pretty little adjectives? The government is too quick to say that the opposition is very theatric. But Mr. Speaker, let's be for real. How many pieces of legislation will we pass with all these pretty little adjectives and no real guarantee? So, Mr. Speaker, today I call for real guarantee to ensure that our youths are not only invited to consultations, conferences, and given a back seat at the room, but they must ensure that our structures matter. Mr. Speaker, I must also ask, Where is the policy that makes climate resilience and environmental education part of the core curriculum in every primary and secondary school? And where are the scholarships, Mr. Speaker, for students who want to pursue careers in renewable energy, agriculture, and climate science? If we want our youth to truly lead, we must give them more than an applause. We must give them authority, resource, and trust. Mr. Speaker, allow me to focus on the MVI for just a bit. The MVI is a step forward. It does hide our vulnerabilities. The GDP per capita GDP per capita does hide our vulnerabilities. And Mr. Speaker, I think that everybody in this honorable house should agree. Because when I think about GDP per capita, I see the Antiguan school child, and I don't know if it's a Caucasian thing too. But when they walk through the bright red gates, you see them with the most trendiest backpacks and school and shoes. But if we were to only look on their academics, you will be surprised because they fool you. Just as GDP per capita fool the world about our nation. Mr. Speaker, allow me to give you some evidence. Hurricane Irma caused damages in Barbuda estimated at over 200% of Antigua and Barbuda's GDP, or even in Dominica, where Hurricane Maria caused damages worth over 226% of their GDP. The MVI is not yet an international standard. It is being discussed. Yes, but in the meantime, how many more hurricane seasons must pass before field funding actually reaches our region? And even when it is approved, Mr. Speaker, will we have the full administrative and educational capacity to manage these funds? Mr. Speaker, I'm not here to oppose this resolution because there is much that deserves support. But as strong as this framework sounds, it still needs muscle. Mr. Speaker, today I sit on the opposition bench, and I want to give you some pointers to really make this resolution truly transformative. I propose a permanent OECS Youth Council with advisory powers in policy making. Let us not only invite them to these meetings, Mr. Speaker, but give them a chance to use their voice to advocate. Because, Mr. Speaker, these are the people who live with our young people and experiences the problems that we want to talk about. So if we allow them to tell you what exactly is going on, I think that these points will really help to benefit our young people. Mr. Speaker, I also propose mandatory climate and environmental education in all schools, paired with scholarships for students pursuing green careers. Let us not only give scholarships for law and medicine, but allow these people, because if the truth is, Mr. Speaker, if we do not take care of our nation, where are we going to get the chance to practice medicine and law? We must think about this first. Mr. Speaker, as I wrap up my debate, this is not about rejecting the vision of this resolution, because I support it, but it is about strengthening it so that it delivers real change for the people who will live with its consequences, our youth. Mr. Speaker, I believe that we share the same goal as the vision, a stronger, greener, and more resilient Caribbean. But we owe it to our people to make sure that this resolution does more than encourage. It must enable, equip, and empower. So let us give our youth more than hope. Let us give them the tools to shape their future. Because, Mr. Speaker, resilience without education is just survival. But with education is when it becomes truly transformative. So, Mr. Speaker, this is my contribution to the resolution, if it pleases you.
Thank you greatly to the opposition senator. I recognize the Honorable Minister of Tourism and Civil Aviation.
Thank you for your acknowledgement, Mr. Speaker. A pleasant good morning to all honorable members and all those viewing both online and in person. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in your honorable house in absolute solidarity with the resolution calling for stronger regional action towards environmental resilience and sustainable development in the Eastern Caribbean. Mr. Speaker, the dire need for sustainable action is undeniable across the globe, in every sector of every country. This is no exception for small island developing states, SIDS, which the United Nations has defined as a distinct group of states that face unique social, economical, and environmental vulnerabilities. Research expressed at the 4th International Conference on SIDS, held in Antigua and Barbuda last year, highlighted that the tourism sector accounts for over 20% of the gross domestic product in over 2/3 of SIDS across the globe.
data from the Statistics Department of Antigua and Barbuda and St. Kitts and Nevis have labeled tourism as a contributor to nearly 60% of the GDP, respectively. It is highly unfair for tourism to pour into our pockets if we refuse to dig into ours just because sustainability costs a penny more now, but will save several in the years to come. Around 75% of SIDS are facing environmental and coral degradation due to tourism malpractices, especially near resorts and cruise ports. Pollution and improper sewage disposal, as well as the use of non-renewable energy within the industry, further contributes to the current environmental state of the globe. Mr. Speaker, if we continue to ignore sustainability in these areas, we will not only be at a cultural and environmental risk, but an even larger economic one as well. This region is plagued with economic leakages of up to 85% due to foreign direct investment that is unsustainable, as well as losses from catastrophic climatic events such as hurricanes and droughts. For example, Tropical Storm Erica in 2015 caused damage equivalent to 90% of Dominica's GDP, wiping out unsustainable tourism infrastructure. Many honorable members of the opposition may try to downplay the significance of tourism, Mr. Speaker, but they cannot refute the claim that sustainable development investment is crucial for us as SIDS. Tourism built on sand will crumble with the tide, and too many in this region build without considering tomorrow. Agendas such as ABAS are prime examples of chartering action towards sustainable development, which of course signifies its importance. The Maldives Carbon Neutral Tourism Program, the Barbados Blue Economy Strategy, and the St. Kitts Tourism Climate Action Plan are examples of action towards sustainable tourism, with plans to decarbonize the respective tourism sectors by 2050 completely. Mr. Speaker, the Caribbean Tourism Organization has outlined the 3 pillars that sustainable tourism is geared towards, which are sociocultural, economic, and environmental. This means that a tourism product should be developed, not is developed, to benefit the environment, economy, and local communities, both currently and for future generations. Plans like the ones aforementioned, especially when catered to the environment, can reduce the force felt by SIDS due to climate change. Despite our minuscule contributions to global emissions, it continues to break the camel's back. According to the Sustainable Travel Organization, by 2050, damage from hurricanes, tourism income losses, and rising sea levels are expected to tax the Caribbean a whopping $22 billion. That is a loss of lives, jobs, ecosystems, and it is a direct attack on the very thing our economies depend on. Mr. Speaker, if this is not enough to convince the honorable opposition that regional action towards environmental resilience and sustainable development is necessary, especially through emphasis on sustainable tourism model development and investment, then I do not know what is. Money makes the world go round, and investment is needed to make a resounding difference in the tourism sector in the Eastern Caribbean. This resolution is the root to an even bigger tree of sustainability. Mr. Speaker, dates, when. But what are dates without willingness? We must always be willing to act, not only when a date is attached. Do we not prepare for hurricane season on knowing the exact date of every storm? The honorable members for St. Christopher have proved this government's point. While we are in the schoolroom, let us attend a class on sentence construction. The resolution
Honorable
states...
member, firstly, let's not go down that path, and I'll ask you to wind up your presentation.
Understood, Mr. Speaker. It is a call for stronger regional action. Action is desired. If I am not mistaken, the resolution is urging the region to act, to change all the current issues that some honorable members can ably list. We are not stating that we have solved these issues, but we are calling for them to be solved. In closing, Mr. Speaker, sustainable tourism is crucial in small island developing states such as our own. We cannot consider economic growth through environmental resilience and sustainable development without investing in sustainable tourism infrastructures and models. One sea, one voice, one Caribbean. But we must also collaborate to solve one problem, this problem, the climate change problem. And if the honorable opposition members disagree still, then perhaps they're not the solution. May it please you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I recognize the Honourable Member for St. Philip's North.
Thank you for acknowledging me, Mr. Speaker. As the saying goes, you save the best for last. Mr. Speaker, I call upon the opposition leader to bring my tool bag because I have a lot of fixing to do in this honourable house today. Mr. Speaker, there's a reason God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, but the government refused to listen. Not once in this honourable house have we refused to adopt this resolution, but what we have indicated is that refinements must be made, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, they may shout, articulate, gesticulate, but that will not intimidate me from doing the will of the people that put me here. Mr. Speaker, not once have any of the members who spoke, none of them overly objected or indicated that what we said was utter nonsense. The AG would have indicated, if I remember correctly, that this resolution is a blueprint, and what we are looking for is a manual. Yes, we are indeed looking for a manual, but if you are unable to provide it, let me assist you, especially in regards to the MVI, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the first thing that I would like to recommend to the MVI is standardized regional data collection system. Each member state must function in a harmonized, robust data gathering mechanism, Mr. Speaker, to track environmental risks, climate exposure, social vulnerability, and economic fragility, Mr. Speaker. Without consistent, reliable data, the MVI will be meaningless, or worse, open to manipulation, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we need technical training and capacity building. Our national statistic offices, planning departments, and relevant ministries must be trained in how to ensure that we measure and interpret the MVI indicators appropriately, Mr. Speaker. This prevents dependence on foreign consultants and ensures that our data remains in our control. Where are the policies, Mr. Speaker, for these in the resolution? It is not listed because as much as they call themselves a visionary government, they cannot see how much fingers I'm holding up, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we need independent verification and auditing. A transparent third-party verification process must be put in place to ensure that the MVI scores used in negotiation with financing agencies are credible and reliable, especially if we wish to put the MVI on an international stage or use it as an international metric, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we need legal and policy alignment, national development plans, climate adaptation strategies, and budgetary frameworks must be updated so that the MVI isn't just a tool for external funding negotiations, but is actually integrated into domestic policy making. Mr. Speaker, we need a unified regional advocacy framework. The Eastern Caribbean must speak with one voice. It is not enough for Antigua and Barbuda, or St. Kitts, or even Dominica to individually lobby. The MVI will only gain international traction if we coordinate our advocacy through CARICOM. I'll give you a little lesson here. There was once something called the West Indies Federation in which the Caribbean tried to operate as one unit. We may not see it because it's not directly before us, but that is what the MVI will do. It will link us economically. We will function as one unit, and we will finally be the one Caribbean that we need to be, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we need bridging mechanisms during transition. Until the MVI is universally recognized, we must have transitional agreements with funding bodies to ensure that there is no gap in financing when GDP-based eligibility is phased out. We need to ensure that these provisions are in place, Honourable Speaker. We safeguard against risk of adopting a brilliant new idea without the infrastructure to support it. In other words, we made the MVI not just an aspiration, but a fully functioning tool for unlocking fairer, more equitable support for our most vulnerable states. So, Mr. Speaker, I understand that we all are tired. So I'll say your two favorite words, in closing. In closing, I wish to emphasize that my recommendations are not intended to dilute or divert the essence of the resolution. On the contrary, they aim to sharpen its focus, strengthen its delivery, and ensure that what is agreed here is, in principle, is actually felt in the daily lives of the folks that we spoke about today, the fishermen, the mothers, the children, our future. Because as much as we speak about the future, if we don't take care of the present, there will be no future, Mr. Speaker. This is not about criticism, but about building an already solid foundation to create a structure that will stand strong in storms, both literally and figuratively. That SIDS will become an inevitable force, Mr. Speaker. I proudly stand in support of this resolution with 2 ears and 1 mouth. I just said it. Come on, man. With these proposed amendments, and I urge my colleagues to see them not as changes, but as reinforcements to a cause we all hold dear to our heart. Let us send a single clear message from our islands to the international arena. We may be small in landmass, but we are large in unity, Mr. Speaker. Clarity, resolve. Thank you. That will be my contribution to this honorable House.
Thank you kindly to the Honorable Member from St. Philip's North, and thank you to all of the presenters this morning. I now invite the Minister of Sustainable Development to do his wrap-up, and please be guided as discussed.
Mr. Speaker, please permit me to wrap up this sitting. Mr. Speaker, can you clarify the time allotments I have, please?
Let's go with 4 minutes.
Okay. I'll try my best. Mr. Speaker, members of this august House, I want to begin by inviting this House to reflect for just a brief moment on the emptiness of the opposition's case. As my colleague on my left rightfully said, the Honorable AG, this is a resolution, Mr. Speaker, not a bill. This is not policy, but a promise. Though the proposed amendments are considerable to some extent, a resolution expresses the opinion, will, or intent of this assembly. This cannot legally bind anything. So when they're asking for all kinds of deadlines and updates and all of that across the region, what are we to do with resolution? I am wondering if I am in the same debate as these people. Mr. Speaker, these are the people who want citizens to line up and vote for them? For them to not know the difference between an opinion and a legislation? Mr. Speaker, I tell you, talking about how they will only say yes to the resolution if we accept their amendments. Mr. Speaker, these people have lost their screws. Their amendments...
Honourable Member.
Mr. Speaker...
Honourable Member.
Their amendments beg for data this, deadlines this.
Honourable Minister of Sustainable Development.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Please be guided by the standing orders and remember that these people are the honourable members of the Youth Assembly.
Please,
Mr.
Speaker,
Minister.
Talking about how they will only say yes to the resolution if we accept their amendments, Mr. Speaker, the honourable members have lost their screws. Their amendments. I am guided by the standing order. Their amendments beg for data this, deadlines this, September 26 this, March 26 this. Deadlines that don't mean anything across the board. The only deadlines we can set are deadlines for our own actions. all kinds of red tape that will not ensure progress, but only make way for more pushback. They want this whole manual with numbers in abundance, the same numbers that are mere projections, that the members opposite define as no progress. We take these clauses, Mr. Speaker, but we don't take their inapplicable demands disguised as solutions. They don't understand the subject area. Leaders that don't know how these things work want to put forward demands. When they talk about the MVI, they want to see how we get the money, which projects we need the money for, and a pipeline of bankable projects and the like, Mr. Speaker. That is the point of the MVI. These things are here already, projects in abundance that we have to fight for funds for, and then have to wait up to 4 years just to receive money. The MVI makes access easier, so that when we don't have the old abandoned buildings that the member for St. Christopher 8 speaks of, the geothermal plant that we have put 10 deadlines down that the member opposite speaks of. But, Mr. Speaker, when we start projects on government capital to be completed with project funds, what are we to do when we don't get these funds? The magical pipelines they want mean nothing without true access via the MVI, timely access, accredited action. Where is the budget for doing nothing? The member opposite asked. A clear lack of understanding for how the government's money works. You can't expect a multi-million-dollar project to just shoot off the ground. This is why we need projects. We cannot absorb the cost of these projects from the capital alone. This is why we fly. We need donors. Read the budget book and come again. Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition wants to amend.
I'm going to ask you to start winding up your rapport.
Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition wants to amend a resolution, remember not a bill, but an opinion of this assembly, to include regional pipelines of projects at CARICOM agencies on a semi-annual basis. Mr. Speaker, how can our federal assembly stretch across CARICOM? We can't make anyone do anything, just like how we can't tell the world to pay us what we are owed, to stop burning a hole in the atmosphere. We can't order CARICOM to do anything. We can only advocate and negotiate, not mandate. Understand how things work. I clearly stated that we need to relinquish the insular paradigms that divide. If countries can't put togetherness above individuality, then we can't do anything else. Do they want to recreate the West Indies Federation, Mr. Speaker? Because if they want to, let them say that. Maybe then we can talk about pipelines across CARICOM and legislation. All the gaps the opposition highlights, Mr. Speaker, I'm wrapping up. All of the gaps the opposition highlights, the inaction, the abandoned buildings, all speak in favor of our point. We need money, money we don't have. All islands sing the same song, Mr. Speaker, but the only thing stalling progress is the opposition and their conduct. They can't see the bigger picture, the crisis. They only see critique. They can't give solutions. The same progress we try to make is the same progress that they uninformedly reject. They don't lend to the collective hope that we need, Mr. Speaker. That is stalled progress. I spoke for 16 minutes and 44 seconds, but I spoke facts, figures, and future. While they talk about invitation to meetings and all sorts of fluff, how can we invite you when we are going across the world to secure investments for the very projects you want a pipeline for? When we are going to the UN to echo CISA across the halls of diplomacy to advocate, network, and secure, while you worry about how much we fly and how much subsistence allowance we get. You need to get your head out the clouds. We are working. Diplomacy matters. Mr. Speaker, in closing, they speak of the enforcement of legislation, the evidence of enforcement. How will the people know about enforcement? Mr. Speaker, I tell you, these people are unaware, you know. The public knows about the laws, from flyers to endless campaigns, promotion left, right, and center, school visits so that no one is left behind in enforcement. The people know, Mr. Speaker, but people have no compassion, and that is why we must act now. Mr. Speaker, They want youth to be partners in policy and not just dialogue. Mr. Speaker, tell that to the organizations locally that influence laws, the consultations that present reports to CARICOM and all kind of international agencies, the UN youth ambassadors that unite locally and represent globally. The youth are represented, Mr. Speaker. Alas, we hear them, we hear their suggestions, and indeed, as the fair and just government we are, we will deliberate their implementation where applicable. Above all, Mr. Speaker, the government holds youth at the center of everything that we do. We are working. There are many things outside of our region that we have to contend with.
Honourable
we
member.
are dots on the map, struggling to develop amidst a changing climate.
Honourable member,
Last
when I
sentence,
begin
Mr.
to speak, you have to stop speaking.
Last sentence, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member.
I yield.
Thank you. Thank you, honourable member, for winding up the debate.
May it please you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. And so, members, having heard the debate on the public business, the question is that the resolution of the Eastern Caribbean Youth Assembly calling for stronger regional action towards environmental resilience and sustainable development be approved. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? Nay. I think the ayes have it. The resolution has hereby been adopted. Madam Clerk.
Adjournment.
I recognize the Honourable Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move the motion to adjourn this inaugural sitting. The Eastern Caribbean Youth Assembly be adjourned.
Thank you for the motion. Before it's seconded, I think we had one or two statements on the adjournment. I'll entertain them now. So I recognize the Leader of Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your kind acknowledgement. I wish to speak on the adjournment, to take the opportunity to first start by thanking the St. Kitts and Nevis in entirety for its hospitality when inviting us and accepting the Antiguan and Barbudan delegation that has come over to St. Kitts. I want to thank the Parliament of St. Kitts for allowing us to use their chambers to be able to have this very illustrious parliamentary sitting today. I think I can speak for all members here that the sitting today was not only entertaining, but it was also very informative. Now, of course, we had some gimmicks, we had some camaraderie, we had some laughs, but we cannot forget the core message that is being put forward. We have problems, we need to address them, we need to fix them. And so I want to use this opportunity to say thank you, but also to say that we need to ensure that when we leave here today, we don't just walk out and forget what we've discussed here today. We need to ensure that when we come here and we discuss all of these things, that we actually put things in place to ensure that we didn't just come here and speak for nothing. We need to ensure that we continue to collaborate and we continue to do projects and we actually implement what we are saying. Just like I said in my speech, we just want action. So let us do that and forward still. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader of Opposition. I recognize the Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I rise briefly on this statement on the adjournment, just to express how proud I am of the sitting and the overall visit that we would have accommodated the National Youth Parliament Association of Antigua and Barbuda. I think the past 4 days, though tiring, would have been very successful. And I ask each of us to commend each of us for the work that we have put in. I know that this is the first sitting that we are having since the passing of one of our members, Mr. Malachi Ferguson. And I can't help but reflect, Mr. Speaker, very soberly about the work that he would have been putting in had he been here with us. And on a very solemn moment, I know that he would have been very proud had he been here to witness the growth of the association, which was evidently seen in this debate today. And so I wish the members of this association and the NYPA-AB and also those who are coming, because I understand that it's buzzing within the region. So we expect that there will be growth on the foundation that we have laid, and so we just look forward to how bigger and better this network and our debates and our voice will get as it touches across the region. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister. I recognize the Honorable Member for St. Christopher 8.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for that. I rise with your leave to give a statement on the adjournment. Just want to congratulate every single one of you young people for your time and talents here displayed today and for the dedication to these beautiful, intelligent young people, of course. I can certainly see why that artist Somalidan said, Antigua, Galtiga. Well, on a serious note, I want to congratulate all these young people, but I want to put a special plug out to the young men, the many Akwanjes, the Krishans, the Hassanis, the Santos, even you, Mr. Speaker, for continuing to inspire. For being that inspiration to other young men across the region, just to showing them how young men are supposed to behave, how to dress, as Christian would say. And
Honourable Member, please don't call.
As the Honourable Member would say.
Thank you.
And yes, that's why I ask each and every one of you to continue to inspire. As the young men are the people that have that statistic, that have the probability of building up a society and breaking it down. They are the population that contributes the most to crimes, and contrary, the population that builds the homes, builds the families, and so. So I want to put a plug that we need to start to empower all our young men. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I take my leave.
I recognize the Honourable Minister, Attorney General, sorry.
Thank you for acknowledging me, Mr. Speaker, once more. Mr. Speaker, I rise today with great pride to recognize the outstanding representation of Antigua and Barbuda within the National Youth Parliaments Association. Specifically, we have 4 distinguished members of our association who would have been recently appointed youth ambassadors in Antigua, and I take this time to recognize them: Crystal Percival, Krishan Jarvis, Latrell John, and myself, and we would have just had a few past ambassadors. But I want to highlight that it is through organizations such as the NYPA-AB and SKNYPA that young leaders are nurtured, trained, and this is proof that young people can always rise to the occasion. Thank you.
I recognize the Honourable Member for St. Philip's North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for acknowledging me. I'd just like to show that I have 2 pins on my lapel for a reason, because St. Kitts have now become my second home. So I wear it with pride. But
2 ears and 2 pins.
yes, 2 ears and 2 pins. But being here has really shown me that collaboration is alive in 2025. Collaboration would have been the essence of the resolution. We see it in this very room today. Even when you look at the balcony, you see a variety of individuals of different ages. That is, sorry, the gallery, not the balcony, so accustomed at home. But you would see that there is a will to support the youth in our endeavors, to aid us in our advancements, because we understand that the future, we don't know what it holds, but we can predict and we can mitigate. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I'd just like to say thank you to the honourable members who debated today. They would have put forward a lot of solutions that I think can be adopted regionally and internationally to make lives overall better. And that will be my contribution, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Okay, so there being no further statements, could I have a seconder for the motion to adjourn? I recognize the Honourable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for acknowledging me. I beg to second the motion for adjournment. Signed, aye.
Thank you, Honourable Leader of Opposition. The question is that this inaugural sitting of the Eastern Caribbean Youth Assembly do now stand adjourned, signed aye. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. And before we conclude, I just want to recognize for their tremendous hard work today, the media team from SKNYS, led by Mr. Sage, of course. And I won't get in trouble to start calling names, but we really do appreciate you and all that you did today, especially in assisting with the preparation of our screen banners and showing up to do photography as well. And we also want to thank the National Assembly of St. Christopher and Nevis for accommodating us today and for their assistance over the last few days. We also thank Toucan Sounds, who has been a ready and steady partner over all these years that SKNYPA has debated here at the National Assembly Chamber, and we are most indebted for their contributions to us. We also acknowledge ZIZ Broadcasting Corporation, who joined us as a streaming partner, and we also want to acknowledge Ms. Esther McKenzie, who would have participated as clerk of the Youth Assembly. She is a member of the National Youth Parliament of Association of Antigua and Barbuda, and of course, Mr. Tajon Walters, Deputy Clerk from SKNYPA. And we also recognize one of our stalwarts within the Antigua Barbuda St. Kitts Nevis Relations, Sergeant D'Angelo Thompson He is a member of the St. Kitts Nevis Defence Force Cadet Corps. And for those who will be aware, D'Angelo has been with us now for several Youth Parliament sittings, and we continue to acknowledge his diligence and we continue to wish him well. So with that, this Honourable House now stands adjourned, signed aye.